Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Mind Management Mentor podcast. I've got one of my former clients into today's show. I'm Cuddy Cudworth, the UK's leading mind management coach, helping people overcome anxiety, trauma, stress, and just living life on their terms. And I get so excited. I've been wanting to do this chat for ages. But Izzy, introduce yourself, please.
Hi, so I'm Izzy, live in Dundee, started working with Cuddy, about just over a year ago now.
Yep.
And he basically solved me in 45 minutes. We had a session, and the things that I have achieved since then and moving forward have been outstanding. Obviously, we'll get into it in a lot more depth as we go on.
And the reason I am excited is because I often tell people, with what we do with mind management is we can help resolve trauma in 45 minutes. And the amount of looks that people give me, and I'm like, if that can get resolved in 45 minutes, I'm like, oh no, I've struggled with PTSD, CPTSD for 27 years. So no, it can't get resolved in 45 minutes. And I'm like, it really can. So I'll just keep my mouth shut, right? So in case you don't know, you should have introduced yourself as Scotland's strongest woman.
Yes, well.
Because that's a great tagline. I've even got it there for you. Look, Izzy Tait, Scotland's strongest woman.
Probably should have led with that.
We met at a competition. I'd seen you on Instagram, so when I first met you at a competition, I was competing in the competition, and I met you, and I was just like, oh, that's Izzy, I've seen her. So Instagram famous for me, I'll be honest. I was like, oh my God, Instagram. And you were really quiet and timid and shoulders down, and I was like, oh, that's Izzy. She's a bit of a legend in the strong lady world and stuff like that. And someone recommended, I'd been working with somebody else in the strongman world, and you got in contact and said, oh, I really struggle with anxiety. But it was severe anxiety.
It was very, very severe to the point that I couldn't leave the house at times.
So, for anyone listening to this, anxiety is a symptom. It's not the problem. That's what I always said to whenever. Anxiety is a symptom of a belief that we have. I just, as a mind management coach, unlock that belief in the so many different ways that I can unlock that belief. I just need to get that belief into the rational mind, and the logical mind starts going, makes total sense. That's literally what we did. Yeah. I don't want to go into too deep into it. I just need to know where the anxiety is, how the anxiety turns up, and then I retraced back. We did it in 45 minutes. We retraced back to the belief, and we knew what the belief was. So that's, for anyone listening, that's what anxiety is. It's a fear because we have a belief. Trauma, I didn't know you had trauma until we had the conversation. And I remember when we had the conversation, I got quite emotional because I was like, holy shit. You have a story, Izzy, and you have to tell the world your story. For any other ladies that have gone through something similar, you are a shining light, Izzy, for other ladies that have gone through it. So, Izzy, are we okay to talk about your story?
Of course, yeah.
That's the reason you are the Scotland's strongest woman, and there's nothing about you that's victim, Izzy, which is that we know that there's victim mindset, and we know there's there's difference. And I always want to make sure everyone knows that being a victim of something and having a victim mindset is two completely different things.
Yeah.
And there's nothing about this story that's victim in any way. It's a champion story, and it's a champion story for other people. So, Izzy, what happened?
So going back to 2015, I was on a night out with my then husband at the time. We'd been out for a very short period of time, an hour and a half maximum. I had went to the bathroom to get a toilet, had came back and finished my drink. It was only my second drink of the night, so by no means was I drunk or tipsy or anything. Very quickly, I started to feel very disorientated and just not myself. And before I knew it, I couldn't remember the rest of the night. So as I later found out, what had transpired was my husband had spiked my drink and had caused a huge argument with me, had threw me against a big concrete pillar inside a nightclub, and I had hit the back of my head. He had then went on to cut himself in the chin with a bottle lid, and had got the police phoned, and it says I had viciously attacked him and had bitten him in the chin. So it was a bank holiday weekend, so I was arrested and placed in police custody and was there until the Tuesday. So that was from the Friday night until the Tuesday afternoon. Knew very little. When I woke up the next morning, my clothes had all been removed. I had apparently been sick all over myself. Taken all my clothes. I had been put in a suicide cell because they were that concerned about my actions and how I was acting. They had then had blood tests done, just because how irrational things were, and how little I could remember. And that's when it came back that I had been spiked. There had been a date rape drug put in my drink. CCTV footage was originally lost. So at this point, I was going through a court case. There was almost 18 months of back and forward to court. I was on bail. I wasn't allowed to approach certain people. I wasn't allowed to go certain places. So all that, and at the same time, my ex-husband's telling me, yes, you've done this. This is what happened. So I had no memory. I had no recollection of what had happened. So he was my husband. I believed what he was telling me. So in my head, I had done all this. I had caused this horrific injury on him. I had done awful things. So that just put me into a really dark, horrible place.
Obviously.
The point. Yeah. So fast forward 6 months from that happening, I had been getting headaches and things, but hadn't really thought much about them. I had got up one morning and went into the kitchen to get some pills for a headache and collapsed on the floor. And the next thing that I know, I had woke up, I was in 9 wells. So it turned out there was a tiny bleed on the back of my brain where I had been attacked. And I think with the level of stress that I was going through at that time as well, that had exacerbated it as well, to the point that I actually thought I'd had a stroke. When it came to right down the right side of my body was completely paralysed. I had no feeling. I had like Bell's palsy in my face. My face was all drooping. I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't walk, couldn't do anything for myself. Had to go for CT scans and various different things. They didn't know what was going on to start with. Got a lumbar puncture done, and it came back. I've got a very rare brain condition that I've been left with called brain separation syndrome. So what happens with that is the nerves in the back of my head don't reattach properly. So they kind of are just loose wires. If you think of it as a computer, like when a computer misfires, that's what my head does. And when it does that, it causes the right side of my body to lose all function. I just completely go floppy and fall to the floor. I'll black out. And then obviously on from that, I've been left now with epilepsy that has triggered that as well. So
that is a podcast on its own, just that story. I remember, I do have quite a good memory for certain things. And I remember, because it is a long time ago that we worked together, I remember that you believed you'd done it all until the police found one CCTV, one angle that showed what your ex-partner had done, which he stabbed himself.
Yeah, he's got a bottle lid,
and he stabbed himself. You'd not had nothing to do with it.
Chin, and I had nothing to do with it.
15 months of going through that police thing, you thought you'd done it.
Yeah, for that whole time.
So if it hadn't come through that there was a CCTV angle, oh my God, we've got him, he did it himself, you were nothing to do with it. That, if there's ever a trauma, is exactly what a trauma is for anyone. That is absolutely brutal. And do you know what, Izzy, when you told me that story and I started working with you, I was like, I got quite emotional just listening to the story. And a lot of people say, oh, you're a therapist or a coach, you shouldn't get emotional. I'm like, no. When there's a story like that and I see a woman sat in front of me saying, I've got severe anxiety, of course you've got severe anxiety. So your anxiety, you struggled going on, you couldn't get on a train. I remember you texting me, said, before we go to what we did in 45 minutes, because we resolved all this in 45 minutes and I saw the release within you. You text me, said, Cuddy, I've not been on a train for 7 years. Oh my God, I'm on a train to Stirling right now. So you tell me what you couldn't do because of your anxiety.
So to start with, it was that I couldn't leave the house.
Couldn't leave the house.
I could not leave the house. I would get to my front door and the panic would start halfway up my hall. And by the time I'd got to my front door, I was shaking, I was crying, I was panicking, I was hyperventilating. I could not open the door. And I managed to work through that a little bit. the point where I was able to get out of my garden.
Yeah.
But the slightest noise, I would dart back in the house.
Trauma gets stored in every one of the senses.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I couldn't get on public transport.
Yeah.
I couldn't be in crowded places.
Yeah.
I couldn't sit for a coffee with my friends.
Yeah.
I couldn't do anything. I got to the stage where I could get to the gate to get in a car.
Yeah.
And be taken like to my hospital appointments or down to the school if Sophie had parents' evening or anything like that. But out with that, I was in the house for almost 6 months. It was so bad. And even after that, I mean, it was 7 years that went on for, and it affected going out, it affected going to see family, it affected going for meals with family for Christmas dinner and everything. It just affected everything. Like getting on a train was one of the biggest hurdles that I had to do, because to me, you were stuck. You were stuck in a box and you couldn't move.
Yeah.
So it just used to freak me out. Like the thought of it just used to freak me out so badly. And then obviously we worked together and things, and it was only a week after it, and I was like, I'm going on a train. I'm going to do this on my own. Yeah. And I sat on the train and I remember being like, I'm actually okay. This is fine. This is fine. It's so peaceful. It's so quiet. I'm like watching the views and I'm like, I need to message Cuddy and tell him I'm on a fucking train. And I was like, I was so shocked. And I remember messaging my mum and being like, Mum, I'm on a train on my own. And she was like, oh my God. Like, she could not believe it. She was so surprised. But that was the severity of it. That's where I was at for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I remember. So what I'll do is like the science side for everyone. So with everything that you went through, all the trauma that you might get stored into your neural pathways. So we store trauma through our senses. That's why we get triggered. We get triggered from, it can be a sound, because our neurons and our neural pathways have a memory. They have a memory to a sound. So even if there's like a bus firing off and somebody's been in the war, or a firework, and a firework goes off, there's no distinguish from a firework to a gun from the war. And it just hears it. So your brain hears it and goes, oh, I remember what that was last time. Right, run for your life. So we have that trigger, we have that fear. So you had all the things that you had going on, and so some of the things that I won't, it's not that I can't go into the techniques. There's like kind of 3 things that we had to do. We had to help you answer your number 1 question, which was it my fault? As it turned out, it looked like he was a narcissistic partner. That was one part. That gave one of the shifts. I remember seeing it. Your blood left your face. Oh shit, it's not my fault. Boom, we answered the question. Yeah, I remember it. I absolutely remember it. And then I asked you what was the feeling, and then we found out where the anxiety was, and we resolved that. And then you just turned away from him and you went, oh, he's gone. And then you cried. I remember you cried because you were like...
It makes me emotional now, even when I think about it.
So there was a release.
Yeah, huge. And like when I think about that day now, because to a lot of people it might not seem like a huge thing, but that day to me, I started living again. Like I started being able to live for me again. And it's amazing.
Which is, I know, bless you. So the question, and this is what I asked you before we did the podcast, and just be honest, right? Because there's always a lot of things. Because when I'm working with people, for anyone that's listening, I always say, look, 5-6 sessions will get you living the life where you want. It doesn't matter what it is, competitions, going back to work, confidence, whatever it is. 5-6 sessions we can get. Remember, we talked. You'd been in therapy. You'd been in counselling.
Yeah, I had seen.
Still had anxiety. I'm not saying anything wrong about counselling or therapy.
No, I had just been through a lot of it, and none of it had done anything for me.
Yeah. Because mind management's not about talking about the problem, it's about resolving the problem.
No, and that's the difference.
Yes, it was about resolving the belief. So, the question is, Izzy, with everything that you went through and how severe your anxiety was, do you have anxiety anymore?
No.
No.
No, I don't. I could literally go anywhere now, and it doesn't faze me in the slightest. Obviously, I do still have triggers.
Yep.
But because I know what causes the triggers and where they come from, I could deal with them very quickly and stay on top of them.
Yep.
And that's the difference for me. It doesn't get out of control now. It doesn't spiral. Yep. So, no, not at all. I could go anywhere. We were down at Birmingham NEC last weekend. Now, tens of thousands of people walking through there all weekend. And I had a great weekend. Mingling with people, being in crowds, and not being phased in the slightest.
Perfect. So the belief was, whenever I'm going to be in crowds, I'm going to either pass out or hurt somebody. That's the belief. We found out what the belief was pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Didn't feel safe, so we resolved it. And that's, again, the techniques that we use with mind management. So now, for anyone, what we did, because I like I say, it's always we knew we'd resolved it in a session. 45 minutes. It was 45 minutes. We'd seen the release. Done. Boom, gone. And even I was sat there going, "Oh, she's booked me for another 5 sessions. What we're going to do?" And then you said, "All right, I've got a competition coming up for I've got to do a deadlift, world record deadlift." Right, and this was brilliant. Because we did the visualization technique with you.
We did.
And this was the second session. We did the visualization. We went through the whole visualization. And the second you'd finished your visualization, I think I asked you, how do you feel about, I don't know if you remember, but I said, are you going to break the world record? What was your reply?
Yes.
Yes.
Because I already have.
I already have.
Yeah.
And I was there at the competition.
Yeah.
And I remember you coming up to me at the end, right? Because I remember seeing your video and I was just as excited as you was. I'm not even going to lie. I was like, oh my God, this is just not only have you done it, you crushed it. You smashed it.
Yeah, absolutely smashed it. Yeah.
And it was, you came up to me after the competition, after the deadlift, you came up to me and went, I knew it because I'd already done it. I did it with you last week. Not even a problem. So your entire body was set up.
That's it. It was all set and ready to do it. It was just going out there and physically lifting it because everything else was done.
Yeah.
Like in my head, I had lifted it 1,000 times. Like I had seen the crowd, I had heard the roar, I had heard everything. So I knew. So when I walked out there, there was no nerves. There was no, God, am I going to be able to do this? Because it was about like, yeah, I'm doing that because I've done it. So, and that was it. Yeah. So, and we've done it very easily.
So let's fast forward because you're a world record holder there.
Mm-hmm.
You've overcome. So this is the name of the podcast is Resolve Trauma to Breaking World Records in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Perfect. And I look the smile on your face because you're like, yes, you're absolutely right. So then let's fast forward to Scotland's Strongest Woman last year.
Yes. So
I came along because I always like strongman competitions, and I remember I think I was sat a few seats in front of your partner.
Yeah, you were in front of the whole family, mum, dad, everyone.
Extra for the seat. I didn't realize where I was sitting. I was really happy where I was sat, in all fairness. And you on that day were just bouncing around, and I'm sure you came to. You were so happy, and you'd already said, "I've won today. It's not even a problem, Cuddy."
Yeah.
You literally just walked through every part of your competition, and you smashed it, and you went, "Cuddy, I've already won."
Yeah.
There was no arrogance. It was pure confidence and self-belief.
Yeah, and that's it. That is all it came down to. And it wasn't arrogance. There was some very strong girls there that, I mean, had I been in a different mindset, would have beat me quite comfortably.
Yeah.
But again, we'd done the work, we'd done the visualization, we'd put in all the work that we knew we needed to do. So I knew I was going there to win that title, and that was the only outcome that was acceptable for that day. And that was it. That's what was happening, and that's what happened. And that's not being arrogant or disrespectful to anyone. It's just I believed in myself for a change and believed in my ability and knew what I could do. So, yeah.
The power of belief. I will tell people about. There's a biology of belief as well, by the way. There is
a
actual biology of belief, and I'll talk to you about some of the things for the neural for the brain stuff after.
Yeah.
There's still a programming that you can do to self-heal that a little.
Okay.
Yeah. So what anyone listening to this podcast, the one thing when I always say to clients is, yes, we can do all these fantastic things. We can resolve all these things greater than stuff, but you have to be susceptible to it. You have to want to go through.
Absolutely.
We do take people, especially with mind management, is I take people back to the pain point and we desensitize the pain point. And that's what we did. We went through in a safe space, we desensitized that pain point, and then we have that follow-up after of
definitely
any triggers. No triggers, that's brilliant, that's fantastic, and then people go on to live life. Izzy, you are an absolute. So you've lost. Let's start talking about this year because you've completely changed your life since we talked and everything. Again, I don't take any credit for that whatsoever. this was all on you, because I said if you ever need out in the future, just reach out. You've never once reached out. You're like, Cuddy, I've got my shit together. It's fine. No problem. Perfect. So you've started. Tell us about the weight loss journey and what's happened, and talk about the water thing as well.
Yeah, so last year, obviously, my health took quite a bad turn with my epilepsy. It was taking ridiculous amounts of seizures. So with that, I was put on new meds, put on a lot of weight. I had a lot of inflammation, and things just weren't great. Obviously, I couldn't go to World's Strongest Women last year due to it. So I decided that I wasn't going to compete at all this year, and I was going to take some time out, work on my health, work on losing weight, and get myself back to a good place. Weight health wise. My mind was very strong, so I didn't see why I couldn't now focus on that. So my son had been looking into things to help reduce the frequency and severity of my seizures, and he had stumbled across something called Kangen water, which is an electrolyzed medical grade water. So it gives it a pH balance of 9.5, which is the best water you could ever drink. They've tested it on so many different things. So I was very skeptical, shall we say, when we first started on it. But I was like, I'll give it a go. I was at the stage where I probably would have tried anything. It's either that or have my head cut open, and I didn't really want to have that done. So we tried this water, and the change wasn't instantaneous. Probably over about 5 weeks. I went through a detox with it. The first few days, I thought, God, I feel really sick, and just felt lightheaded and very dehydrated. So I thought, God, what is this water doing to me? It's actually not working. It's making me feel terrible. So looked into it, spoke to the consultant and things that where we're getting it from, and he was like, no, stick with it. It's because it's flushing you out. It's actually detoxifying your body. It's getting rid of all the garbage that's in there. And right enough, within 5 days, that started going away. And over the next month, the improvements were just so much better. I was sleeping better. My appetite was better. I was digesting food better. So that was the main thing that gave me that extra boost to be like, right, okay, let's now look at the diet. Let's get that sorted. So the start of this year, I just started looking at my food myself. I have quite an emotional relationship with food.
Me too.
So I was like, I need to do something, but I've tried nutritionists and things in the past, and they just don't work for me. I don't like to be told what I could do around food. I like to make my own choices on that. So I started doing intermittent fasting, where I would have my last meal at about 6 o'clock at night, and then that would be me until lunchtime the next day. And it worked amazing. I've lost almost 25 kilos now since the start of the year.
25 kilos is times 2.2. That's 50 pounds.
Yes.
About 58 pounds. Wow. Now, I don't know. I've put my weight. Last time I saw you had lost loads of weight, so I started doing the again. And I know when there's nutritionists out there, oh well, you shouldn't do intermittent because it's not consistent and stuff like that. I get that, and I know what my emotional cravings are. I get it. I was talking to another guy who does NLP, and I'm like, God, I'm such an emotional eater. I know that I can change the pattern. I know I can.
Yeah.
But I just like cake and biscuits, and it's an absolute nightmare. Fasting, and again, this is definitely not a food podcast. Anyway, don't come to me for food advice. I can, but I tell you what, I do help people with is the belief of why they're eating and the connection, and so we can change the habits, which is quite strange. But I don't sell weight loss things because why would you come and see me for a weight loss? I've seen people who sell weight loss things, and they're not what I would go and purchase off. I want to see evidence of the weight loss.
Exactly.
Well, that's a judgment on my part. That's a complete judgment on my part. So you have now lost 50 pounds. You're in a great relationship as far as I remember. Lovely guy. Lovely guy. An absolute gentleman.
Getting married next year.
So you've changed your entire life and you're back in training. I think I saw in a recent picture, you look like your triceps coming through.
Yes, I actually have muscles. My top abs are coming through.
I was like, check out the abs on. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy. So there is a lot more definition. I feel so much healthier, to the point where on Tuesday last week I decided, I'm going to sign up for this comp.
Talk us about the competition.
So on Tuesday last week I thought, Arnold's are this weekend. They have an amateur Arnold's comp. I'm just going to sign up for that and see how it goes. Because obviously I've not done a comp since August last year. I wasn't sure how the body was going to be with being in such a high calorie deficit, not really training strongman this year at all. I thought, we'll just go and test and see how it goes. So we went down to Birmingham last weekend. Comp was on the Saturday and smashed it. Won 4 out of 5 events. Come out overall winner. And here we are.
I saw you. So talk about you couldn't do because of the water, and I think you should be mentioning that water a little bit more as well. You should probably get sponsorship from the water. Talk about, you said you've never been able to do the yoke before, but you did the yoke and you didn't have seizures. You did well. You smashed it.
Yoke used to be really bad for triggering seizures, and any time I got under it, it's because where the nerves are bothered in the back of my neck, it sits roughly the same kind of area. So anytime I was getting under the yoke, probably in my head a little bit with it as well, because it was causing this all the time. I just had a huge fear factor of getting under the yoke.
Of course.
And every time I did, I would have seizures, maybe not under the yoke, but within the next 24 hours, I would have a bout of seizures that would last, and they would be quite severe. So I started avoiding it and just not doing it. And then if it came up in comp, I would be so bad at it because I can't train it. So on Saturday, there was a yoke, and I actually won the yoke event.
Did?
I could not believe it. I was like, messaged my coach, and I was like, Jackson, I have won a yoke event. What is going on? I was so dumbfounded. It was like, wow.
Jackson's a good. I know I spoke to Jackson. Stuff like that. He's an absolutely amazing coach. So you are located in Dundee.
I
am. A great team up there up at the gym. What's the name of the gym?
Dundee Strength Unit.
Dundee Strength Unit. Absolutely. I know we've got macro. I will just talk briefly about macro nutrition as well. They're going to be opening up for anyone up in the Dundee. Because I know a lot of your followers obviously will tune into the podcast.
Definitely.
So macronutrition's in Perth, it's in Glasgow, it's in Dundee now, and I have to say the food is delicious, and he's perfectly done it for every portion.
It looks. I was having a look on their website at their macro breakdown and things, and it looks very, very well put together.
In point, and I've had the pancakes, and it was fresh as you like. They were cooked. They weren't like the pre-cooked ones.
No, hadn't been sitting. Yep, nice and fresh.
I have to say, Jack,
who doesn't love pancakes?
What is it about pancakes that we absolutely love?
I know, we can't help ourselves.
So now you've done everything that you've done. You're coming back into it. What's the future hold for Izzy?
So next is Scotland's Strongest Women, which is on the 11th of July. So hopefully go there, win that, go to Giant Sly Britain's Strongest Women, and really put myself out there as one of the best. That's the plan. That's what we're going to do.
You have some great competition out there as well. So let's have a little shout out to some of your
amazing
Laura Baxter.
Yeah, for one. Fantastic, super fast. Just has that grit and determination. Like, she gives everything to everything. She is phenomenal. You've got Nicola Ann Bennett, who's doing the Opens. She's actually an under 73 competitor, but she's stepping up and doing the Opens comp this year. Right. You've got Sammy Mayhew, who is, as you know, an under 64 competitor, and she's stepping up and doing the Opens comp this year, I believe. Yes, well, so I've heard. So there's quite a few from GBA that are doing it. So it's been held in GBA through in Edinburgh. Right. It's been live streamed. It's a nighttime show, so they're selling tickets for anybody that wants to come and watch. Nice. Obviously, you've got Stuart Murray running it and things like that. So yeah, it's going to be an awesome show. Hopefully, the other Scotlands that Glenn Ross runs will be happening at some point. Not sure when. There's been no date confirmed, but I do have his UK show in, I want to say July, but I might be wrong.
Yeah.
So we're down at, I don't even know, Warrington, I think it is this year. They've changed their location. It was Nottingham last year, but he changes all the time, so I get confused. Down there for that. I was meant to be going over to Ireland next month for the OSG Record Breakers.
Right.
But then I decided I wasn't competing this year, so I had pulled out of that. So fair enough, we'll miss that. But there'll be plenty of other opportunities to take the world record back on that. And then I'm not really sure what else is coming up. I had signed up for a stone lifting comp, but I can't do that because last August I hurt my bicep at Europe's.
Right.
And I'm still waiting to see. They've finally just decided to give me an MRI.
Is
So
that
on
Jamie Garan's competition?
Jamie Gorian's, yes.
Yes. Oh, I always call him Garan. Gorian. I always call him Jamie Garan. I love Jamie. I did the first stone competition.
So cool.
And yeah, he's good for Scotland. He's good.
Yeah, it's so good.
So good. And I love
It's,
watching
and the natural stones, they're just amazing to do. Obviously I've done them a few times. There's different ones all around. So I was the first female to lift, obviously, the Fianna, load the saddling onto the mare, get the Dalwhinnie to chest, lift the beaver in. So this year we're going back to have them on the shoulder. That's the plan.
Fantastic. Honestly, Izzy, thank you so much for doing the podcast, first of all.
Thank you for having me.
To any ladies or guys, actually, because I've started working with guys a lot recently, whether it's performance anxiety, whether it's just in life. That's the power of mind management. That's what we do. It's such a powerful tool. We've got so many different techniques that we can help to give people what they want out of life.
Absolutely.
Life on their terms. Yes.
That's why I was saying one of my favourite sayings now is your body won't go where your mind won't allow it.
Ooh!
And it's so true.
Ooh!
So true.
You need to get that on your t-shirt. That needs to be the new Izzy. Before I steal that saying, you absolutely need to nail that, by the way. That's a phenomenal thing. Say that again, because that might go on as a tagline for because I started calling you #World's Strongest Granny.
You did.
Remember, because I talked to you about branding. I'm like, we need to call you the world's strongest. We did. Oh, that's hilarious. I remember that. Because that's where World's Strongest Granny came from, because I said on the branding.
That's where it came from.
That's hilarious. That's absolutely. I did a lot of your branding on that, and I'll do a couple more posts with you. I know you're a sponsored athlete and everything, so that's fantastic. Tell me again what you're saying is.
The body won't go where the mind won't allow it.
You need to get a t-shirt.
It's my favourite.
Body won't go where the mind won't allow it.
Allow it, yeah. You
are extremely talented, Izzy. And
thank you.
So, for anyone, just to wrap up, it's you were so determined to not be beaten by anxiety.
Yeah.
You didn't want to become a victim of it. You knew
that
some work. You knew
it was taking over my life, and it wasn't for a want. I mean, I was trying everything I could to make it go away.
Yeah.
But I just didn't have the tools to do it myself.
Yeah.
So
absolutely fantastic. You are. I've worked with so many great people, but whenever I'm having conversations about the power of mind management, there's two ladies. It was actually ladies who I worked with, and we did resolve it in 45 minutes, and then we follow up with like the things. It's not like everybody comes in 45 minutes, you walk out living your best life. No, we follow up. And see where those triggers are and stuff like that. You absolutely just are a powerhouse of a lady. You are a shining light for so many other ladies in the UK and around the world with what you do in Strongman and how you are, and your openness and your Instagram is absolutely fantastic. It was my pleasure working with you. I would have to say that I probably took more away from it than you did.
Oh no, I don't know about that. I definitely don't know about that.
Perfect. Izzy, is there anything you would like to say to the world?
Yes, just don't let anxiety become your life. Don't let it overtake your mind. Reach out to someone, reach out to Cuddy because he will help you. And
that's very kind, but yes,
you will feel so much better for it. And just go out and go after it. Just do it.
Just do it. It's like a Nike advert. And remember, the body won't go where the mind won't allow it.
Exactly.
Izzy Tait. As always, big love from Cuddy. And
thank you.
On the next podcast. Thank you so much, Izzy.